and welcome to the first episode of Geek Gab, the podcast. And my name is Stephen.
I'm Walker.
And yeah, this is our sequel podcast to our original podcast that we had set up, Culturecast, and didn't quite work out with our third partner, but
yeah, a bit of a slacker.
Yeah, definitely a slacker, but you know, we're back now, and we're talking about shit that we love, and today's episode is about sequels, as you can tell from this carefully planned Back to the Future music.
Not specifically movie sequels, game sequels, just anything in general that kind of piques our interest and what kind of made it kept going, why it didn't get a sequel.
Mm-hmm. Anything really in pop culture that kind of should have been repeated, or maybe was repeated and shouldn't have. And there's definitely a lot of those to discuss.
All right.
So, Walker, do you want to start us off?
I think we can start with one of the most famous franchises, Star Wars.
Yeah.
That is we just had a new one come out not too long ago. We're having more coming out. They're going to do, continue the trilogy and probably do more. We got Rogue One coming out.
Yeah, Rogue One, which is the spin-off movies. It's kind of interesting with Star Wars because, I mean, you jump straight into one of the biggest franchises of all history. So, I mean, it's going to be continuous perhaps forever now that Disney own it.
Yeah, I think, Disney paid a lot of money for it. Yeah. So I'd be very surprised if they didn't push this as far as the envelope will go.
Exactly. And it's interesting because they've kind of had a variant of success and failure with the Star Wars franchise, I feel. They've had the initial success where they made A New Hope, and then George Lucas had the ideas to keep Star Wars going, came back with the original sequels, which is now considered the original trilogy, but really they were actually sequels to begin with, and people talk about good sequels, and pretty much the first one that you'll hear is Empire Strikes Back is the perfect sequel.
It's a prequel, so it's like
Empire Strikes Back.
No, I'm sorry, I'm thinking of Phantom Menace. My bad. That was my bad. Sorry, I was just caught on the train of about ready to slag down Phantom Menace. So.
Don't worry, we will get to our Phantom Menace passion.
I was just really keen to just dive straight into that one. All right, so we're going to start with obviously 3, 4,
4, 5, 6, yeah.
4, 5, 6, and then we'll go back to the 1 to 3, and we'll tear that to pieces. He probably one thing that always wondered that I really wondered about was, did he have ideas to continue after 6? And if so, why? Because I never really looked into that.
Yeah.
But I know for a fact there was allegedly George Lucas toyed with the idea of Luke killing Vader and then putting on the helmet and proclaiming that he is then Vader.
Saying, I am Vader now.
So
that'd just be the weirdest ending.
He was going to go into the dark side. And that potentially would have added a whole return of the Sith, I guess, where it's now Luke is taking over the family business. And he's going to
family business. It's like some kind of Italian pizza shop. Hey, it is Vader.
Hey, Molly.
Hey, I was talking to the Emperor the other day, and.
So that's my main question is why did he go 4 to 6, and then go 1 to 3?
Yeah, well, obviously I wasn't born in the 70s and early 80s, but
that seems like a you problem.
Well, we all know you were, Walker.
Fuck him.
But yeah, I'm not sure if they were originally titled 4, 5, 6.
No.
From what I understand, they were titled A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi. So the titles 4, 5, 6 came in when the prequels were introduced.
I'm pretty
sure
what I believe. The first one was just Star Wars. And he added it later on.
New Hope was later, okay.
Yeah, because I guess he didn't know how much of a hit it was going to be. Because I know at that time sci-fi was not a big seller. It was very bad. And he kind of broke the ground on that and was able, and that's kind of what helped things like Star Trek as well get really pushed forward.
I mean, that's why people like Steven Spielberg are so revolutionary, not just to his own directing of films, but he helped all these films like Back to the Future, Star Wars get made in the process. Him and Steven Spielberg and George Lucas were working together simultaneously on Star Wars and on Indiana Jones at the same time. And there's actually a lot of theories that go around suggesting that Steven Spielberg directed a few scenes in Return of the Jedi.
Undoubtedly. I mean, if they were great friends, you would imagine that, you've got a friend that is also
Chip and Champ.
A really good director and is critically acclaimed. You would imagine that he would, maybe if he didn't even pick up the camera himself and kind of sit there and go, this is how I reckon it should be.
Yeah.
He probably at least gave some input. Constructive criticism, oh, you know what, George, that's really good layout, but what do you think of this instead?
Yeah.
And undoubtedly, because that's what friends do. Authors, for example, will
work together,
send a
bounce
chapter
some
to their
feedback
friend.
off each other. Yeah.
Yeah, and they'll say, what do you think of this? And then the same sort of thing. It'll be like, nah, this is kind of cool, but I don't like it as much.
Yeah.
So undoubtedly, I think that happened, but it's still like, I don't know. I just always wondered why he didn't go 7, 8, 9, but instead went 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, well, I guess he felt there was more interest in telling the Vader story, I suppose. And there's so much secrecy behind that kind of stuff. Like, if you hear some of the old stories of the original trilogy, you hear stuff like David Prowse, the man who played Vader in the suit, actually. He actually wasn't fed the same "I am your father" line, the iconic line from Empire Strikes Back. He was actually fed a line that said, "I killed your father, Luke." So even he wasn't trusted, even though he was the real embodiment of Vader.
Why did they not tell him that?
Well, I suppose it was just out of fear that he might give it away to the press and publicity. Because I'm pretty aware that he was very vocal about his anger at not actually being able to voice Vader, even though he had quite a girly voice, from what I understand. So wouldn't have quite had the same effect James Earl Jones had.
Exactly. I mean, he's the man that nobody remembers.
Yeah,
okay? That's kind of the sucky thing about actually being the embodiment of Vader when you weren't the voice. Is everybody knows James Earl Jones, and everybody knows, from obviously being Mufasa, Darth Vader, and etc. Like you hear his voice, you immediately know, that's Darth Vader. Like it's a recognizable voice.
At the same time, I don't like. Mad respect to David Prowse and stuff like that, but anyone that was that kind of size could have, worn the suit. You know what I mean? It really took the intimidation factor of the creative artists and of James Earl Jones himself that made Vader Vader.
Of course.
So
and
and it was failed to be replicated in the prequels, which we can now discuss if you like.
Well, to be honest, look, I'm not really a massive enemy of
I'm not a total prequel basher.
Yeah, I grew up in a time where I watched them 1 to 3, then 4 to 6.
Yep.
So
I remember watching them as they came out in cinemas.
I watched the other ones when I was very young, and I'm talking 5 years old with my parents, and you don't really have the same impact as someone that would have been an adult at the time going into a cinema for the first time ever seeing this. Plus, you kind of growing up in this age, you've heard Luke, I am your father, whether it's from Star Wars or Family Guy ripping it off for the Star Wars episodes. Literally everyone's done their I am your father joke. So if you're watching it nowadays for the first time and you saw that scene, it wouldn't have the same impact.
Yeah,
so
as it did in the cinemas.
Growing up watching it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I didn't really get the hate toward it as much as a lot of other people. I do see cinematically why there was a lot more talking and boring scenes, as it were, but I don't know.
Well, I think what a lot of people neglect to actually bring up is the fact that it was more of a character-driven. They're more of character-driven films than the originals, because even though the characters aren't developed as well as people like with Anakin and stuff like that, and Padme and all the nonsense there.
I just realised I'm nodding to what you're saying, and nobody can see that. I'm like, that's a good point.
Yeah.
I should actually should probably be vocal when we're recording a podcast.
Yeah, you'd think so, but.
All right, sorry, keep going.
Yeah, I was saying that.
Padme and...
So they're more character-driven films. So the original 3, they're adventure, they're swashbuckling. You don't... the only way... they're always doing something, whereas the prequels, they're kind of stopping and standing on their feet for a while, especially in the second one, perhaps.
Somebody once told me that they felt that the original... not the original, 1 to 3 Star Wars, so the prequel, they felt that was more like a love story.
Yeah, okay.
And when you really think about it, it kind of has a Romeo and Juliet kind of feel. A lot of the 1 to 3 is dominated by Anakin and Padme.
Yeah.
And in the end, they don't get to be together. And that's kind of what, the whole idea was Anakin was thinking the dark side's the right path to keep her safe. That was his whole end game, or at least what they cinematically attempted to portray. Yeah. And then obviously, she dies anyway, and he's a part of the dark side now, so he kind of just lets hate consume him, as the Emperor point out. So I think when I look at it like that, it definitely is, and I feel not that has no place in a sci-fi fiction movie. You've got to kind of handle it very differently, and it was when I really look at it, it was really centralized on Anakin and Padme. There were entire scenes when they were on Naboo, just joking around in the grass and shit,
rolling around on fake CGI grass.
Exactly. So when you look at it like that, it actually is quite love story based, and maybe that's why a lot of people coming from the original 3, and then seeing lots of crazy action scenes with sci-fi laser guns and lightsabers and stuff like that to this like one Darth Maul off in the distance.
Yeah.
And he's just like comes in every now and then to fight Liam Neeson.
Yeah, that was all a bit strange. They didn't really have any kind of, I don't know, it didn't feel very central. But we seem to be back on the right track with the new film though, Force Awakens, and with all the spin-offs coming. Like all the news is good. Like all the people that they seem to be casting and evolving in this universe seems to be like Disney's impressing at this stage.
Well, I mean, Disney hyped the crap out of it. I mean, I remember literally when they first dropped it was like a 30-second trailer. Not even. I think the first one was like 8 seconds on like a sunrise or something like that.
Yep.
And it was world news within like 20 minutes.
Yep.
Of like, oh my god, there's a new Star Wars, coming out like crazy. Check it out. And like, I remember seeing videos on YouTube of like millions of hits within like a day of people breaking down like this 30-second trailer. Yeah. And they're like, here's what we saw. Did you notice this Easter egg here? And I was like, I don't see anything.
Oh my god, Vader has a clone. I remember that was a legitimate thing that people were saying.
Saying things like that, like it's a Vader clone, or like the most common one was
reincarnation.
The Apprentice games.
Okay,
a lot of people were saying that it was possibly meant to be like The Apprentice comeback.
Oh, okay.
And I saw a few of those people saying that.
Yeah, there was a lot of people talking about the sequel book series that came out, with the Jason Solo and Jaina Solo storylines, but obviously they didn't stick with that. But
well, I mean, I can see how people would think that, given the fact
that it was canon for so long with those
on top of that, they're like
existing Star Wars universe stories.
Them deliberately putting Han Solo in the trailer and him literally being like, Chewie, we're home.
Yeah.
I know that was a huge crux for people to be like, wow, this is going to be epic.
Yeah, it feels like the original trilogy.
Yeah, I think that was something that was great, and that was like an excellent sentence for them to have.
There's definitely a lack of Solo in the prequels.
Yeah. yeah. I feel like they could have at least Easter egged him in there somewhere.
Yeah, but then would we be happy about that now, looking back,
It's always one of those things, like, this would have been great, and then if you had a timeline where it happened, we probably would be bitching about how crap it was, so.
Mm-hmm, definitely. So probably one of the next things I would want to discuss here is we're both pretty massive fans of Back to the Future.
Of course.
Do we feel like a modern day, or maybe is there an opportunity now for that market, or was there an opportunity maybe in the late 90s, early 2000s for Back to the Future 4?
I think like obviously prior to Michael J. Fox getting Parkinson's,
obviously that's
like we'd have to say back then, unless idealistically we could clone him or something like that. And then,
you couldn't do it without Michael J. Fox.
It has to be Michael J. Fox. He has to be in it. It
has to be Christopher Lloyd as well. So
I would assume, but then I think he would definitely should be in it. Yeah. But then you get a lot of, especially if they did it today in this day and age. I feel like a lot of people would bitch and just be like, "Oh, it's the same movie over and over." Yeah. And to an extent, I guess they would be right. Mm-hmm. But that's also because they're some of the greatest movies ever made.
Exactly. Can you recreate greatness? A fourth time.
Lightning strike for a fourth time.
Yeah. And a lot of people, don't think that the second and third one quite live up to the first one. In some people's opinions, I think it works quite well as a trilogy. Definitely. If you watch them back to back to back, it's actually quite immersive, and the endings lead on to each other. I don't think I've ever not watched them back to I'll literally be like, just watch this one movie and then I'll go to bed, and I'll just end up being like 4 a.m. in the morning, and I'm just finishing the last scene of the third one. Just seeing the DeLorean get smashed by a train.
Exactly, but it's hard to say. I do remember there was that hoax a little, I think it was 2 years ago, where there was meant to be the 2014. Back to the Future, and someone created a really good hoax thing where it was supposed to be that Doc comes back again and he's stopping the nuclear war or something like that.
Oh, really?
And I remember my first thoughts upon seeing this hoax, before I obviously checked out that it was a hoax, was immediately like, no, please don't do it. In this day and age, I don't think the fans are right. I think all the fans that loved the original have kind of grown up, and we've accepted that it's a cult classic, and I feel like if we pushed it now, it would fuck the entire series.
It would fall on its face,
yeah. I mean, look at
there's probably opportunity for growth maybe in the series, maybe in another 10, 15 years, you know what I mean? But I feel like Hollywood should come up with some new original ideas and let this one sit. This definitely feels like one that has kind of run its course and can be put in the classics file for all time.
I would be mad if they turned around and honestly were like, we're 20 years from now, they're like, we're remaking the first one.
Yeah.
Because that undoubtedly they're going to do that at some point. They're going to say the CGI doesn't hold up now. we own the rights, we want to do it.
Yeah.
And they're going to do it.
If Bob Zemeckis' children need to make money or something.
Yeah, they will probably do that. And that sucks because honestly, we know it's not going to have the same effect. And like they might even get some amazing cast members in there and it might even turn out really good.
Yeah.
But I just don't think that it will be the same without the Marty McFly we know as Michael J. Fox. And I don't know, it's one of those movies like that. Like casting,
it's perfect how it is.
Yeah,
it really is.
Exactly. Like casting was as important as the story and the script writing. Like the people, the way that the actors actually like interacted with each other was something that you don't necessarily recreate just because of an amazing script. You know?
Yeah. Did you know there's actually Michael J. Fox wasn't the first person to be cast as Marty McFly. Eric Stoltz was cast as him.
I'm pretty sure
originally.
they even had a couple mock-up scenes.
Yeah, they a lot. It's actually a lot consistently of probably the first half an hour of the film was actually filmed with Eric Stoltz, and you can actually, if you go online, you can find a lot of the footage on there.
From what I know,
some of the iconic scenes where Marty looks at his dad at the bar table, and
from what I know,
running across
it was
the street.
Because they originally wanted Michael J. Fox.
Yeah.
But he was on a TV show at the time.
He was on Family Ties.
Yeah, I think that's it. And they were like, we really want you, and he was like, I really want to do it, but I've got prior commitments and being loyal to the show that obviously got him even really like
in the public eye
and stuff like that, which good on him. I think eventually he was kind of like, oh, I've got some spare time now.
I think from what I understand is Spielberg and Zemeckis knew straight away that they wanted they wanted Fox, and when Eric Stoltz was doing the scenes, they kind of noticed some things that were wrong and there was some kind of trouble on the set, they really didn't want to admit that they made a mistake. But then eventually it got to the point where they had to get rid of him. He didn't take it very well apparently.
Well, I mean, why wouldn't you? Like, who would? Wouldn't that suck? Like, hey man, you were our replacement, and also the other guy. I know we're a little bit into filming.
For about 3 or 4 months into filming.
And the other guy that we really wanted, he's free now. It's like
I'm pretty sure he actually worked nights after the show. He would film the Family Ties during the day, and then at night he would film Back to the Future, and then he would go to bed, have about 3 hours sleep, and wake up for Family Ties again. So I mean, he had a brutal schedule.
And he was quite young at the time too.
Oh, definitely. I think he was must have been early 20s.
The point of that is like, how do you feel that the sequels actually hold up? Like, I personally think that they held up really well. I enjoyed them.
I actually I definitely feel like the first one is my favorite now. But when I was a kid, I kind of enjoyed the old west kind of theory about that, and the futuristic style. So I mean, when I was a kid, they all stood side by side. But now I definitely acknowledge that the first one is probably the best film. But for me, one of the best moments in Back to the Future still gets me every time I watch it is at the end of the second one, where Marty's standing in the rain and the letter comes from him from 1855, and it says, "I'm still alive."
I think it's 1885, mate. It's
1885. You're probably right.
Yeah, damn right. Yeah,
damn it.
Don't question my knowledge on the back.
My Back to the Future trivia is not up to standard.
I think like one of my favorite bits. I used to see like. Do you remember like those old Blockbuster adverts?
Yeah.
They used to have like the small like trailers of movies for like the different like PG, and I remember like at the time the PG one, I think it was, had a scene from the Western, like the third one, where Biff's cousin or like his ancestor, the Mad Dog, like came in and he was like, he called him, he's like, blah blah blah, you egg sucking gutter trash, and like they had that bit, and the mother covers the daughter's ears, so literally every time I watch that movie, I literally see that from the Blockbuster where the mom's like, and like covers me, like egg sucking gutter trash is like the worst swear word you can think of in a PG rating. Like, come on.
Shows you some great stuff there.
Also, the sniper rifle gets an honorable mention. Like, he's actually created a sniper rifle in the Western. That's just so good.
Yeah, it's become quite iconic, those sequels, so I think they definitely hold up.
Alright, let's come to the future a little bit and we'll talk about the Captain America.
Yeah, okay, so something more modern. I like it.
Yeah, we're to modern. So you want to...
Yeah, so personally, we went and saw Captain America 3 Civil War together.
Yep.
And what were our thoughts?
Well, honestly, like after Age of Ultron, I lost so much faith in every.
It was on an all-time low.
I walked in because I remember you like called me up. You're like, "Hey man, like let's go and check this out. I think it'll be okay." And I was like,
"No." Yeah, I was pretty optimistic because I had enjoyed the other Captain America movies.
They were good, but I don't know, man. After seeing Age of Ultron, like I watched that at my house with Netflix when it was on that, and like that should tell you how bad I feel like it was. Like it got pushed to Netflix, and it never once showed up as the featured film that they're like, oh, we got this. They were just kind of like, oh, it's on Netflix.
It's on Netflix. No, anyone that likes it. No.
It took me nearly double the runtime to get through it because I was so bored. I'd be like, oh, I've got to go do something, and just pause the movie and just walk out of the room. Mm-hmm. And I feel like if you can't even get me to sit in my seat for a free movie, like I'm sorry, but it's $11 a month for my Netflix subscription, and I couldn't even sit through the entirety of that. I had no issues with just getting up and leaving during the plot. So obviously, like when you were like, let's go see Captain America: Civil War, I remember like my biggest hesitation was like, I don't even want to spend money.
Yeah,
like this just feels like it's going to be such a waste of my money. And then like,
but boy, were we pleasantly surprised.
Oh, far out, like really, it was an excellent movie, and if anybody listening hasn't seen it, I recommend going and seeing it because it was definitely
it reignites kind of the superhero genre in a way, like
100%.
Yeah, introduced the Black Panther, Spider-Man. They're both great additions. Could bring color to this already kind of set up existing universe with Iron Man and Captain America.
I think like what was really good about it is like people come to like sort of rely on the interactions between Captain America, Tony Stark, and like Thor, and Bruce Banner, like of the people that portray them, like, because of the Avenger movies, number one being so good, and them kind of like portraying the same roles in other movies. We've kind of come to rely on that. Yeah. So going into this one with entirely new people,
it's kind of fresh, fresh characters chucked into the mix.
And it actually like it was balanced out amazingly well. The Russo brothers, like
they've done it again.
They balanced that perfectly.
Perfect people to be taking forward the third and fourth Avengers movie.
Yeah, absolutely. I would wholeheartedly. I would consider going and seeing that, despite like Age of Ultron being the worst movie.
It's like, whoa, okay, some really dark stuff there.
It was bad, man.
It just wasn't a good sequel, was it?
Like, they so like I've seen a lot of people online write reviews about it, and like the reviews aren't even just like one crowd of people saying this is what's wrong with it. It's literally every type of like people that enjoy the comic book say, this is what's wrong with it. And that view differs from the people that follow the movies, and the movie guys are like, no, instead I hated this about it. So when you've got all these different groups all saying one individual problem was wrong, overall that means that the movie just had more problems than it had good parts. Like, fair enough, it had a couple of interesting scenes here and there, but it was so few and far between. Like at times I didn't mind Ultron. Like they kind of gave him like a weird sadistic humor.
Yeah, I kind of liked that. I digged that, but kind of the stuff with Vision for me was a bit out of place, and I don't know. It just felt very. To say probably rushed is maybe a fair thing. It felt like they were kind of trying to compromise and like for the idea they originally came up with, and it feels like that they definitely missed the mark.
I think the problem was that like I don't think it's not that they had no faith in the Avengers 1. I think it was that they didn't think it was going to be as much a success as it was because it came out and it destroyed everyone's expectations. Like, Avengers 1 was very good.
Yeah, I speak to like grown men and they say like that moment where the Avengers all stood together for the first time, like bring them back to their childhood, and like it has that kind of like emotional connection with them. Like it'll never leave one of their top favorite movies.
And I know people that aren't even really big movie heads that have seen that movie at least 3 times. Yeah. And I've seen it at least twice. And twice and a half. I was leaving for work when I watched the second one. And
I probably would have seen it about 10 times.
But that's what I mean. Like it was very good. So I think like when they came out and they were like, oh damn, that did really good in box offices. We need to like push another one out. It got to that kind of consumerist standpoint to where we were screaming for another one, and they were like, "There's money to be made. Like we can really do this." Obviously, somewhere along the line, they just kind of skipped a step or two. Yeah, and probably didn't take as long as it. Really
I think it was extremely close to derailing the conveyor belt of Marvel films that we have. Because they've been quite ambitious, Marvel, and probably rightly so at this stage, because they have done pretty well up to this point. They've only made a few missteps, maybe, like some people didn't rank well of Thor 2 and Avengers 2. But yeah, when Avengers 2 came out and there was that kind of backlash, they kind of hit them. That was unexpected because everyone at this stage had come to accept that the Marvel movies were maybe not everyone's favorite, but they were good. Yeah, they were consistent. Definitely. They were consistently like good, and maybe the superhero fatigue had kind of set in.
Maybe they got a bit lazy with it and thought we can kind of just say what we want and people will eat it up. But that brings me to a point. I remember when we left the cinema, I mentioned to you that I felt like they could have almost labeled that movie Avengers 3.
Yeah, okay.
And we didn't really touch on that a whole lot, but I felt obviously like going out of it, like it definitely, like, it was a Captain America movie. It did focus a lot more on.
They did pretty well, I thought, on centraling in on Captain America as the main guy.
It was definitely, because it also did a lot about Bucky, you know, the Winter Soldier type of stuff. Like, it really kind of like brought in that whole, there are more of them, and
he was the character that we primarily followed. I mean, we had Tony Stark in the mix as well, but he was morely used as a protagonist.
But I still felt like, had they named it, say, Avengers Civil War, it kind of would have been like the prequel to the next one, which the Russo brothers are also directing.
Yeah.
Which is Infinity Wars, I think.
Yeah, Infinity War, I think. Yeah.
Which is about Vision and you know,
the Infinity
Thanos
Gauntlet
and all that
stuff.
shit.
Yeah.
Like the really comic book stuff that should have been brought in, which is now. So I felt like it could have been a good setup for them to be like, well, now we're bringing in Spider-Man, Black Panther, etc., who are Avengers, but they didn't get a mention in the first two movies at all.
Yeah.
So I felt like it was kind of weird to chuck them into the Captain America movie.
It's also, I think, in a way, so that I think that what they've got with Infinity War, why they've split it up into two parts, is they must have some kind of overarching main story that they want to tell, right? So if they don't really have the time to introduce a Spider-Man or a Black Panther, for instance. Yeah. And now they're both getting their own original movies, which I kind of like, to flesh out the characters a bit more so we understand them when they do come into the Avengers movies. So they've already been worked out. They've been introduced in this film. We've got a sense of who they are and what their importance to the universe is, right? Mm-hmm. And when they get their own standalone movies, we get more of that. We get their backstory. We feel like they are an integral part of the universe. So this on the same level as, like, some people would like consider Ant-Man and Black Widow and all those kind of, and the Hulk and Thor and those kind of guys. And then they're kind of gently introduced into the team of the Avengers. Yeah. Just like Guardians of the Galaxy as well. Like, they'll be ushered in for Infinity War as well.
Yeah, they have to be. Also, Deadpool is supposed to be an Avenger. Like
that's different universe, different studios.
There's like 10 million fucking Marvel universes, so it's kind of like a hard.
Yeah, I mean that he's. Yeah, I mean,
but, like,
it's just different studios.
I don't see them
completely different issue.
Like I don't see them not doing it down the field. Like I'm not saying he'll be in the next one, but I really wouldn't be surprised if after they've kind of run their course with Deadpool, because that was a huge box office hit as well. Yeah. I feel like they might try to, like, especially in the Spider-Man, because there's a lot of comic book crossovers between Spider-Man and Deadpool. Okay. So like I think it's entirely possible that we might see that come into play. Like he might even cameo in the next Spider-Man movie or the one after that if they push it. Mm-hmm. That'd be interesting, but we'll see how we go. There's a lot of Marvel movies to be coming out between here and
a lot of sequels.
Yeah, a lot of sequels, spin-offs. I mean, it all comes under the same umbrella.
Yeah. So another kind of sequel I wanted to talk about was sequels are the Hobbit movies, and how do we feel about them?
Look, I personally enjoyed them. Yeah. I felt that number 3 was probably the weakest of the 5 Armies one. I really quite liked the first 2. But someone pointed out to me, like, the original Lord of the Rings books, 1 book per movie. Yeah. Yeah, The Hobbit.
The 2 books, because they're split up into 6 books, but 2.
Well, but
more
like,
or less parts.
So like 3 parts, for more or less like 3 settings. Yeah. But yet, The Hobbit, which is the smallest of all the books, got the same amount of movies. Yeah. So, and I know a lot of people are angry about that. I don't really see why. Like, and I know it's kind of a cash grab. Yeah. Obviously, but when you actually look at it, like the way they laid it out, it kept my attention throughout. Mm-hmm. I feel like
they drew a lot of inspiration from the Silmarillion, which is another book that was written by Tolkien. That kind of fleshes out the universe and stuff like that. Like, some ideas were taken from that, I'm pretty sure, and explored upon. And they also introduced characters like Legolas, who obviously wasn't a character in the Hobbit books. But
I mean, it makes sense though, because he would have been alive at the time.
Yeah.
And like,
if you get Orlando Bloom to put on that skirt, then why not?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the ladies love it. So
see, for me, Lord of the Rings is such a massive part of why. Like, I'm studying film at university, and why I kind of love that culture. So for me, The Hobbit was a bit of a disappointment, but it's still, like, I'm never going to complain about being reintroduced to the world of Tolkien.
Well, see, that's how I look at it. Like, I love the originals so much, like the actual.
You can't hurt them.
Yeah, I look at it and I'm like, it had some kind of boring bits, but I love that universe that Tolkien created so damn much that it's like, unless they brought out a movie that was absolutely terrible.
They said, hey, these movies no longer apply. Check this out. And and told a whole different story.
Like they brought the Terminator in or something. Like, he travels back in time to
Crash Bandicoot and Terminator work together
to destroy someone like that. Then I look at it like that. Then I'd be like, it's really dumb. Like, you know, like they completely messed up the Terminator franchise by doing like a movie where he travels back again, but into the past further than the original.
And then Daenerys is
there.
So
basically, it made the entirety of that movie's canon not relevant.
Yeah.
So like, I feel like unless they did something like that with the Lord of the Rings setting, and they're like, oh, we're doing a new movie, like following Samwise, for example.
But and see, the Lord of the Rings movies, in my opinion, like each sequel, they're all timeless. They're timeless tales that you could show like our great grandchildren, and like it would still hold up. I feel.
Oh, to be honest, if I was to show my great grandkids and they didn't like it, they're no kids of mine.
They're no great grandkids of mine.
They're no relatives. I don't know them. I'll disown that part of the family. The way I look at it. But my main question there is, did it need 3 films?
The Hobbit, okay. For me, no, definitely didn't. I feel like a 2-parter probably would have been okay, but you know, everyone always talks the trilogy, the holy trinity of like 3 films and stuff like that. I mean, I felt like they did a fair job at keeping the story branched out over 3, because you know it's a traveling film. They need to reach a certain destination and complete a quest of getting to the mountain and killing Smaug. So Smaug.
Who I thought was an excellent character.
Everyone pronounces it differently. Yeah, have you ever seen the footage of Benedict Cumberbatch doing the Smaug? It is hilarious. He's like on all fours and he's doing the faces of the dragon, and it's quite excellent actually. People should definitely look it up on YouTube if you get a chance.
That sounds like something I'm gonna have to go check out. Right. The next one I want to discuss is a bit harder because obviously like similar to the Lord of the Rings, it is based on books, but the iterations are a bit different. So Harry Potter.
Okay, Harry Potter.
I am personally a massive fan of Harry Potter.
Yeah, I know
I've
is
read
your
the books,
realm.
Back to front multiple times, and I've seen the movies multiple times. I even have them in normal and Blu-ray.
Mm-hmm. And you actually carved a scar into your head.
I did. No, I didn't really. That's a great idea. I should do that. Probably not.
See, for me,
you've really only read. So you've only seen the movies. You haven't really read the books.
I have read the books, and I'm pretty sure my dad read them to me when I was a kid.
So I mean, a long time ago.
A long time ago, and I definitely read the last couple ones as they came out, and
all right.
When there was that whole craze of oh my god, it's the last Harry Potter book.
I mean, to be fair, it was like cult classic status. I remember that vividly. So basically, what I'm looking at here is like, not necessarily did the movies hold up to the books, because if you're a hardcore fan of the books, you're going to nitpick and you're going to be annoyed with it. And if you're someone that loves it for the movies, you may not have read the book. It's annoying when someone comes in and is like, oh, well, the books didn't really do this, or Harry's eyes and this and that. Like, that's something that is just, it's aesthetics. I
feel like both pieces of art should be able to stand on their own and
what
coexist.
So let's individually look at the movies here for the time. Right?
Talk about the movies.
Do you feel that the movies were timeless, or do you feel that they deserve the praise that they've got? Because look at Harry Potter. It has literally spawned theme parks.
Yep.
It has a literal, it is the idealistic fantasy of what you would want if you were an author.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Rowling is like the second richest person in Britain right now. So clearly there's stuff that people like, and I am actually it's more growing on me. It never really hit me in the same way that Lord of the Rings and Star Wars hit me when I was a kid.
Yeah.
But I was always I watched every movie as they came out. I wanted to be Harry Potter. I wanted to ride a broomstick and stuff, and I wanted to punch Malfoy in the face.
If you're a fan of the series, who didn't get sad when they turned 11 and didn't get a letter to Hogwarts? Despite that we live in Australia.
Yeah, exactly.
They're not really going to ship us overseas.
And the giant spiders are actually real in Australia.
Yeah. Well, we fight them daily, so that's not really the same thing. But we don't have basilisks, so we kind of get away the pluses and negatives there. Giant spiders, basilisks. I'd rather love the spiders. For me, I felt like I would say there are 3 main favourites for me of those films. When I was younger, I admired 1 and 2 quite a bit. Actually, Chamber of Secrets was kind of one of my big favourite ones when I was a kid. But the more I've kind of looked at it from a film student kind of vision, I've seen some faults in it, and the child acting isn't great. Yeah, but for me, 3, 4, and Part 8
are the really good ones for me. I feel like Prisoner of Azkaban fleshes out a story that I feel is one of the most interesting and intriguing storylines in the entire Harry Potter universe.
I'm going to say Sirius Black.
Yeah, like the Sirius Black storyline and Peter Pettigrew and Lupin and stuff like that. Like that whole storyline for me is so interesting and intriguing, and the whole backstory behind like all these characters when they used to go to school together and like with Harry's parents, and like they're fleshing that out for everyone that didn't read the books and didn't know that. I felt that was really interesting.
Well, I mean, in terms of like my favorites, like I would probably, disregarding obviously they were children actors, so it's a little harder for them to like fully immerse themselves.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed number 1 and 3.
Yep. Okay.
Obviously, like a big part of number 3 was Sirius Black.
Yeah.
Gary Oldman playing Sirius Black was, in my opinion, because like I had seen Gary Oldman in other things, and for the life of me, I never would have pegged that was him playing Sirius. Period.
Yeah.
Like I literally didn't know. Like I was actually watching Friends later on, and basically like he was playing a soldier in that, and he said something in the same inflection that he said as Sirius.
I did my wedding. Yeah. 12 years of it. And Azkaban.
That hit me, and I was like, oh my god, Gary Oldman is Sirius. And I had to get online. I was like, no. Like,
no way, yeah.
No, and like that to me just showed like that he became.
He fully immersed himself in the role,
and it was like he looked like how I imagined Sirius would have looked in the book. So in that aspect, like I think that you can really trade it off, and that's something that I love about the movies in general. Is there are so many actors in it that played like Alan Rickman. Yeah, Snape. There's nobody that will ever be born that will play Snape better than that man.
Yeah, exactly. He was meant for the role. There's what I kind of admire about the Harry Potter films is the way that I'm not sure if it did this in the books because obviously I haven't read them, but just from a movie standpoint alone, I feel like the people that were fans of the product grew up with the characters. So for example, like when I was watching the movies, I was kind of growing up a similar age to Harry. I think I was like 1 or 2 years off, but like more or less that was my age group. And as the movies progressed and got a bit darker, and I immersed myself more into the storyline, and it felt like there was more themes that in the original one, they're kind of they're fighting for the house points, and then that becomes irrelevant as like real life struggles come into things, and like there's actual life threatening situations. Harry loses like Sirius and stuff like that, and Dumbledore.
Yeah, I mean, it is prevalent in the book. It's a bit. I think that's a bit easier to portray on the cinema.
Yeah, and screen.
But I personally think that J.K. Rowling, like, she really hit the nail on the head with like the first ones. It definitely feels like more of a child's book, especially if you read it now.
Yeah.
If you're in your 20s, for example, and you go back and you read it, you kind of look at it like, it's a little bit of a children's book. But then, literally, as you were saying, like as you kind of progress. Not just the mentality of the people within the book; it's the entire tone.
The situation,
of the book starts to kind of around
shift.
About the fifth one or the fourth one.
I think the fourth one, where the death of what's his face? That classic character. What's his face?
Yeah, he was integral. Honestly, he was a main part of all of the. No, look, my main reason is because in the fourth one is where the other schools joined. For the Tri-Wizard tournament.
Yeah.
And
Cedric Diggory, thank God.
The one. Yeah, the guy that also played Twilight, which we'll talk on in a moment.
Yikes.
Fuck that, just like completely destroyed my train of thought. And look, I think what I'm saying is like that around about the fourth one is where they start to add in kind of like hints of puberty, as it were, like them growing like kind of attached and like
there was kind of that
like
Ron
flirting with Hermione and getting mad when she went to the ball with Victor.
Yeah,
like it kind of shows you like that
played with real emotions.
11-year-olds don't do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Unless you're in Rockingham.
Yeah.
And but my point is that. And obviously, as you were saying, like by the end of the books, there's a lot more depth. There's the entire war at Hogwarts.
Yeah, exactly.
It completely shows you that.
And the films kind of do censor that a little bit. Like I feel like we don't see a lot of the depth.
To explain that because we're legitimately watching the actual actors portray these people actually grow older, taller, and feel out more as human beings.
Have their voices break and stuff like that.
So it's look at the first Harry Potter, like Daniel Radcliffe's voice is squeaky.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
in the last one, it's not. Obviously, he's become a man.
Expecto Patronum.
Exactly. All right. Well, moving on with that same kind of book iterations into movies, Twilight.
Twilight. Yep. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not a fan. When it was hitting its cult classic, I was urged to just at least sit. Like I read one chapter. Like someone was like, just read a chapter, see what you think. Yeah. I read it, and it was hard. It was physically hurt my soul to finish that chapter. It was like, sorry to anyone that's a big fan of Twilight, but it was boring. And I know, like some people say you got to give it 5 chapters, but I feel like if you can't even at least get a little immersive in that first chapter, you're going to lose people right off the bat.
Yeah.
And on top of that, I sat through the first movie, and I feel like the movie was a lot better than I thought it was going to be, because I went into it with being like, I want to kill myself.
Yeah.
So like coming out, I was like, oh, it was okay, but like then like later on, I saw one
as
of
the
other
franchise
ones,
progressed,
and it just felt corny.
Yeah.
Like that's the word that I feel explains it, corny.
Yeah. For me, that genre has never been done true justice, though. In some respects, like
vampire,
that vampire kind of, like zombie werewolf kind of thing. It's never been really my kind of area of
I love that
of expertise. So yeah, I know you're kind of immersed in that. But for me, it's never really kind of grabbed my interest as much as kind of other genres, maybe like of the medieval genre or something like that. Has been more of my
zombies.
Side of things.
Zombie genre's probably fine, but I think like Twilight set back vampire genres 20 years back.
Yeah.
Because
see, I haven't even seen the films, and like I just don't want to. To be honest,
here's the entirety of the plot. So the vampire is a disco ball.
Fair enough.
That's it. That's the movie.
Excellent.
And he can move quickly, and
excellent.
He smells her a lot.
Yeah.
Like here's something that really I don't get, right? When did it become sexy to appear in somebody's room and just stand over them at night? Like, I'm sorry, man, but if in 2016, if you do that shit, you're a fucking stalker.
Hey, man, Ted Bundy used to like that.
So there you go. Robert Pattinson is Ted Bundy.
God. All right. So, have you got any movies you think should have got sequels? Like, or any kind of products, like games or books or anything you think should be expanded on.
I can definitely tell you about games that shouldn't have got sequels or have been done to death.
Okay.
Right off the bat, I'm a big Pokemon fan. I grew up with a kid. It's always got a sentimental value there.
More of a Yu-Gi-Oh man myself.
Done to death. Like there's like 700 Pokemon, and the new one's coming out, Sun and Moon. You can, if you're a fan of Pokemon, you should probably already know that.
From what I understand, the DS games are pretty well liked, though, aren't they? And respected, I suppose.
Don't get me wrong. I've played more or less. Like I give each one of them a small chance.
Yeah.
And I'll check it out. Like, kind of get into some, don't get into the others. Like, but at the end of the day, it'll always be the same category. Mm-hmm. Like, it'll always be you're a kid that goes on an adventure. You get the badges and become the Pokemon League champion, and you got to catch them all. It is always the same thing. So, like, props to Nintendo and all that for actually successfully keeping it relevant since the 90s, and it being a game that they literally take the same formula and use it over and over and over and over, and it actually not being terrible to the point where everyone's like, I don't want to buy this. So, good on them for managing that. But, I mean, I'm not saying they shouldn't get sequels, because, it's always going to hold a special place. I just think that, like, maybe they need to, like, sit back and like, try something different. Mm-hmm. Take a risk. They've got millions of dollars out of Pokemon. I'm sure they can take a risk on one title.
Yeah.
But it falls in the same category, and this is going to ruffle some feathers. Call of Duty.
Okay.
I am not a fan.
Okay.
Every fucking shooter game is Call of Duty.
Yeah.
Every game. All right. Halo. It's Call of Duty. You think it'd be Halo? See, the name is deceiving.
See, Halo 1 and 2 though, they're pretty much cult classic games.
I'm specifically talking Halo 4.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. So Halo 4, after Bungie was forced to sell it or had to sell it or whatever it was. After Bungie lost creative control due to Microsoft and all whatever I didn't get involved in that politics side of it all. But after Bungie stopped being like the lead developers, it turned into Call of Duty. You literally I remember playing one of the Call of Duties and you get loadouts. When you start, you have your pre-constructed I want to use a shotgun for this map, so you don't have to randomly always play the same weapons. Mm-hmm. Halo never did that up until Halo 4. And then all of a sudden they were like, oh, actually I think they did it in Reach, where it was Reach was halfway between Call of Duty and Halo, and I hated the hell out of Reach. It was terrible.
Yeah.
So you like it, fight me. And
fair enough. See, I've never been such a massive gamer myself. My gaming experience is limited to Spyro and Crash Bandicoot. So.
Oh well, see, after you play them, you don't want to play anything else.
Exactly. There's nothing else really. I still own my PlayStation 2 and consistently will play Quidditch World Cup also.
That's amazing. My main issue is things like Pokemon, Call of Duty. Why do they not change the formula? Call of Duty is the same game.
It's a winning formula though, man. Regardless of public opinion, it makes money.
Is it really though? Let's take a look at.
I don't have the exact charts of finance here, but I'm gonna take a wild guess that it does make money.
Let's take a look at Call of Duty Infinity War.
Okay.
Which has been trailered not that long ago, and it has over 2.5 million dislikes on the YouTube trailer.
Yeah.
It is,
I'm pretty sure,
like it has a world record of the most dislikes on any video, strictly because people hate it. It was like, I know the original Call of Duties go back to Battlefield and you know, them kind of being the similar sort of games. It was a war game. That's what people liked, from what I gather. What people loved about these Call of Duties was like you're in World War One, World War Two. It was a war game, epic.
Yeah.
But these new ones, the new Infinity War, literally has space battles. And like,
I feel like it's kind of going off genre kind of thing.
So I mean, so Halo became Call of Duty. Now Call of Duty's become Halo.
Yeah.
It's just
rename them.
Why? Other games, like in that same kind of retrospect, where they probably not necessarily went on too long, but in this case, like I think Call of Duty hasn't changed enough. This next game changed too much.
Okay.
Fable.
Fable. Okay.
I was a massive fan of Fable 1, and it was an RPG game where you kind of immersed yourself in a character. You didn't get to create your own.
Yep.
But it still managed to immerse you in the storyline and what they wanted to do. The next one, number 2, completely changed the gameplay. It completely changed all the mechanics of how it all worked.
Changed the winning system.
It literally felt like I have often said, as a Fable game, it is terrible. As an RPG, it's good. So if you strip the name Fable and just call it RPG 2, it's a good game. But I always felt that it wasn't Fable. It was as far from Fable as Fable was from Call of Duty.
Exactly.
And they did the same thing. And like Fable 3 was very similar to Fable 2. They kind of tried to like bring it back to that winning formula again. Didn't work. And then they basically, Lionhead Studios just kept publishing a new one and a new one and a new one to the point where fans literally stopped caring.
Yeah.
And now, as a result, Lionhead actually recently closed down.
It's become exhausted, yeah.
You know, my point is like, when is enough enough?
Yep.
You know, and that ties into the whole thing of being like, do some sequels need to happen?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, do they need to happen?
But see, that's the thing. You know, like it really depends on the product, because then you look at stuff like I know it's not a direct sequel per se, but it is a kind of a follow-up game. You could say Skyrim, for example, from Oblivion.
Okay, yeah.
It's probably like one of the better examples of a sequel game, per se, that worked, you know, and was well received.
But see, I guess that kind of comes into what I'm saying. Like, was it different enough that it worked, but was it similar enough that people loved it?
Yeah.
Like Skyrim and Oblivion, like a lot of the similar mechanics, and it added some things that we wanted and some things we didn't want.
Yeah.
But obviously, at the end of the day, it is an Elder Scrolls game made by Bethesda, and all of them kind of have the same sort of like feel to it. Mm-hmm. So, like, that's what I mean. Like, this is the thing that interests me so much about sequels in anything, like books, movies, games, literally board games, card games, like anything at all. Are they like? Do you want them to recreate the same thing?
Yeah.
Or do you
want something new?
Yeah,
people need to kind of decide.
You know, like it seems to be split into two like ballparks there. Like some people are like, oh, I really want the same thing, but then they get it and they're like, oh, it's too similar. Mm-hmm. But then you get something that's so different, like it doesn't even feel like I'm playing the same game. Like I feel like with Fable.
Yeah.
So, where is the right mark on that one?
Yeah, that's definitely fallen off a perch, I reckon.
So, what are some movies you think didn't get a sequel, or like they probably should have?
All right, so I've got a little bit of a list here. I just want to I'll just chuck you. You don't need to talk about every one of them, but you know, I'll kind of shoot and see what you think. So there's one. I've got a question mark next to this one because I don't necessarily think it should have got a sequel, but I think it'd be very interesting to see, and I think I'll be one of the first people in the cinema. Right. Inception 2. Now the problem with that would be the underlying fact that you would pretty much ruin the fantastic ending of the original Inception. You'd have to answer the question, you know, was it reality or was it a dream? Unless you follow it centered around different characters.
Yeah, but I was about to say, like, couldn't they potentially just invent entirely new characters and then
new situation,
like same universe, different people.
Yeah.
And
Nolan doesn't necessarily go to sequels though, apart from the Dark Knight trilogy, but
I think like a sequel
really
that would be kind of hard. Like that might be one of those movies where like they try to make it too trippy the second time around, and like it's just the plot becomes so complex it's too hard to follow.
Yeah.
Because at some points I know people had trouble following Inception.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and Interstellar is another example of that movie that me and you both loved, but some people didn't understand.
Matthew McConaughey was bloody fantastic in that movie.
Yeah, but here's some other ones. Ready? Zombieland 2. Like, from what I understand, like, this is good.
I heard that's getting a second one.
I've heard some rumors, but I don't think anything's 100% concrete at the moment. So, but yeah, that's definitely one that I would like to see. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy 2 is another one. Okay. I know they kind of finished off the book series in the original movie, which is kind of a shame because I feel like they could have, if they drew from the book sources more, they could have really made it into maybe like a trilogy or something like that.
Well, that was probably one of those movies that they, while they were making it, they kind of worried that it wouldn't be as good. So they kind of crammed as much info as they could into the first one, and then were kind of like, well, if it works, it works. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. Yeah,
exactly. It'll pay off or it won't, kind of thing. It'll just be a one-off, And I think another one I got written here is Aragon. I was actually quite a big fan of the book series when it came out. The movie was kind of a letdown, I won't lie, but I feel like I've seen worse movies get sequels, so I was kind of a bit on that one. I was like,
You've read the books and you've obviously seen the movie. I never read the book.
Okay,
So I strictly only seen the movie. So this is good for me to be able to look at it and say, like, when I went in there and seen it, like, I had strictly only seen that movie. I'd never read the books. I went with my brother and my cousin who had both read the books and they were avid fans. And when we came out, I was kind of the first one, like, they were kind of just like silent. Like, I thought maybe they were absorbing the information, kind of like processing how they felt. I was kind of like, I liked it. I was like, that was pretty good. And then they turned to me and they were like, it was terrible. And I was like, why did you dislike it? And they basically riffed off a list of things that didn't happen in the book that the entire movie fabricated.
There's nothing worse than a smug book reader, to be honest. Like, I mean,
true, but I mean, I understand, like, they're not going to get it, like, movie to book translation, they're not going to get every detail correct.
And some people, fans want stuff to be faithful, which I do understand, but at the same time, you've got to realise that they are two different different resources.
They're playing for different fans. But the thing that caught my interest was that they said that, like, the entire battle, or one of the battles at the end or something like that, didn't happen at all.
Yeah, there was definitely some different stuff. They took some liberties with the story and stretched it out.
That's like what I'm looking at here when I was, like, evaluating it. Did they need to, like, when you're doing a transition from a book to a movie, do you need to fabricate stuff? Like, I feel like if you need to fabricate entire scenes and story arcs, was the book really worth making into a movie?
Yeah, I can see what you mean from there. I personally think yes, because maybe not entire story arcs, but definitely scenes and character interactions sometimes, because I feel like in some situations, books and movies obviously do not 100% correlate to each other. So one does not, reach over to the other one perfectly. So, for example, you might need to have a scene where you establish where somebody is, or in it. And you might not need to explain that when you're in a book, you know what I mean? Like, when to make a coherent film, you need to show every location and you need to show different angles and stuff like that. And they don't always correlate.
I mean, I understand that, but at the same time, like, I feel like I remember watching, like, an interview with ID, which is the creators of the Doom franchise of games, and I remember, like, watching an interview about while they were creating Doom 3 for Xbox, and one of them said, he's like, you've got to be really careful when you create games, because when people grow up playing a game, it kind of becomes a part of them in a way. And, like, I know that they're fans, like, as much as, like, some people might think that's weird that it, like, kind of becomes a part of your identity, it kind of does. It's something that you played and you put many hours into. So he was saying, like, you got to be careful of balancing. You can't just, like, rush out and change. You change it too much, people get scared and they're like, oh, it's not what I remember. But obviously, you got to find that balance. Is it the same with book? Like, that's how I'm kind of looking at it when, like, my cousin and my brother were like, oh, they fabricated all of this, so I was annoyed. It was like maybe the book iteration had become, like, a part of, like, what they loved, and then the movie kind of, like, destroyed that.
Yeah. Okay.
So, like, it had a negative effect.
See, that's the thing though. For example, there is I'm a massive fan of the animated television series Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Yeah.
And obviously that was completely annihilated by M. Night Shyamalan and his film. But what I tend to tell myself is that it's okay. It's okay that this terrible thing that pretty much destroys people's confidence of actually watching the show, which is, like, one of the best TV shows ever made, in my opinion. And people see the movie and they think, gosh, why would I watch that trash show? When I know in my head that the show is amazing, and if people watch it, they would fall in love with it like I do. But as long as I know that film can't ever hurt the TV show, like, I always have this little perfect TV show there, like, Like, as much as people want to make it into a movie, like, it exists as a TV show.
What does that come back to, though? Like, I mean, that's you're able to look at it, kind of block that out, and like just kind of
pretty much repress it. Yeah, more or less.
That M. Night decided to go with, but just in a way, like maybe people are looking at like that kind of, because I mean, as you just said, like some people might be just like illusioned and not want to watch the new, or the original, the actual TV show version. So like that comes down to when you love something, like especially like an indie thing, right? Like you're like, I'm a really big fan of this book or this movie, and it's like it's an indie film or indie TV show. Do you want it to get widely known?
Yeah.
So like as someone that you love the original Avatar.
You just gotta hope that the product finds someone that has as much care and respect for it as you do. That's all you can hope for as a fan. I mean, obviously, like as a fan, you're not really entitled to much apart to enjoy the product that is made available to you. So if something is made and you enjoy it, like at least that exists. You know what I mean? Like as much as interpretations as people have, at least you have the original content.
I mean, yeah, that's fair enough. Like, I guess it comes down to what I was saying with the ID, like, interview. Like, it becomes like a part of somebody's identity, and they kind of get defensive about it.
Yep. Okay.
Like, it's not like they're trying to get mad, but I mean, I guess that's why, like, my cousin and that weren't a big fan of the Aragon movie, and they were kind of just like, they I know after that they didn't even want to see another one if it was ever made. Yep. And I know obviously it did so bad in the box office, it actually crashed and burned, and another one was never made because of it.
Yeah.
So it comes back to that, like. I mean, obviously, ideally, we want someone like ourselves to like direct the version of it that we want to see. Yeah. But at the same time, like, it has that weird balance of, do we want it to get famous or do we want it to not get famous so it stays the way it is? Yeah. And like I feel like that's something that a lot of people struggle with. The change, as it were, from cinematic to not cinematic, etc. So.
Great. So I'm going to put you on the spot now.
Oh, great.
Name me the best sequel of all time.
Oh, but I mean, like, it's just an easy.
And explain why.
Well, I mean, I loved Back to the Future. So, like, my brain immediately goes to Back to the Future, because if someone's like, "What's your favorite movie?" Immediately, Back to the Future. There is no hesitation in my mind. So, I guess. Okay. Because I love it.
Tell me why. Yeah. Why does Back to the Future 2 sit so well with you?
Well, I think it's because like I've watched those movies endless amounts of times, and I have no intention of not watching them anymore. Like it holds that timeless classic. Like it is something that we would look at and say, this is a classic. Yeah. And the movie was made a long time ago, like before my time, and I'm still loving it now in 2016. So it obviously holds up excellent. And on top of that, like something that I love about watching movies is that I try to find plot holes. I try to find things that they stuff up. So not like so I can nitpick and be like a dick about it and be like, oh, they stuffed up there. But if it's like a set of movies and there's a really obvious plot hole, I don't use that to get online and throw my opinion at the directors and say they're trash. I kind of find it like it's like a fun little thing I like to do. Like, oh yeah, that kind of sucked that was in there, but whatever. I've done that many times with Back to the Future, and there really isn't many. Yeah. There is only one that I think Big Bang Theory touched on, was with when Biff went back in time. In number 2, I think it was, to give the magazine to other Biff. When he then travelled forward in time, he should have travelled forward in that timeline, which means the DeLorean never would have returned to Mighty Rock, and they would have been trapped in the weird timeline that they were in. So that is kind of a weird thing, but I don't know how.
So I'm pretty sure time travel is that much of an anomaly that we can ignore. Perhaps that kind of stuff.
A way, maybe he opened a portal in more than just time and space and moved through multiple realms. I don't know. But like that's really the only one that, and honestly, I didn't even notice that up until I watched that episode of Big Bang Theory and they brought it up. Yeah. And then I was like, wow, and it was that glass shattering moment. Yeah. So, like, what is your all-time favorite sequel?
Probably my all-time favorite sequel would have to be The Dark Knight. I just think that the continuation of the storyline of Nolan's trilogy was really set in motion with that film. Like Batman Begins is pretty good. A lot of people like it quite a lot. I'm not as crash hot on it as I am like the other movies in that series.
I don't personally. Like Batman Begins. I was not really a fan of it.
Okay, fair enough. But I think it's pretty much universally accepted that Dark Knight is fucking.
Oh, sure.
Fantastic.
Honestly, I wouldn't want to listen to an opinion of someone that said that it wasn't.
So. Exactly. Like to say that movie is bad, you would literally have to be trying so hard to lie to yourself. Like you'd have to be convincing it. You'd literally just have to be going against everything that is holy.
That was one thing, because like, didn't Heath Ledger win like an Oscar? I think it was he won an Oscar.
Yeah, he won the Oscar for best performance.
And I was fine with that, like that he won that.
Yeah.
But I know a lot of people got butthurt and kind of said like, he only won because he died.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
I feel it's kind of disrespectful in a way, but they could have a valid point. Like, we obviously don't know the scenario that would have happened if he had have lived. But
why don't you try to name me a movie from that same timeline?
You really put me on the spot there. 2008. Oh, what came out in 2008?
Exactly.
Who knows?
That's my point.
What was it, 2008? Okay, now I'm really questioning myself.
I'm not really. I mean, look, my point is like that. If you can't really immediately think of another movie in the same kind of timeline, that like 2008, like in that time frame, that really hits home, and you're like, oh, well, I mean, there probably is. And
there is a thing about it,
on it. But my point is like that movie was.
I mean, it definitely obviously helped, contributed, and like the haunting kind of feeling, I suppose, like behind everything. But definitely, I feel like it was earned.
I feel like it was a slap in the face, like of people that were a fan of the movie, because that was another movie that I went into with very low expectations, and I didn't even know Heath Ledger was in it. And I'm a Heath Ledger fan, and I didn't realize that was Heath Ledger. And that's exactly my point. Like, when this is what I love about cinematography and movies and things like that, is when an actor becomes the role. Yeah, it's more than just, and you know it's acting, like it's pure acting. Skill, and that's all it is. And like, he became Joker. And probably one of the best iterations that we'll ever see of Joker, period. Yeah, exactly. In my opinion, you know. So I'm going to look at
carrying on. I remember when he first got cast, there was kind of there was, everyone was like, "What? Isn't this the guy from A Knight's Tale?" and stuff like that, and everyone was like, "No, nobody." Yeah, no, but a lot of people in America didn't like that movie.
But people in America go watch a different movie.
Go watch A Knight's Journey. But
go watch A Black Knight with Martin Lawrence. Whatever. I don't even know who it was. That's my point exactly.
Yeah. But everyone was kind of like hesitant. They're like, "Oh, Jack Nicholson's Joker will never be like nobody even be on par with that." And now everyone pretty much universally accepts that they are pretty much on par, which is incredible. Like, I remember the first photo came out of Heath Ledger as the Joker, and everyone was like, "Oh my gosh, what the hell? Like, this is the darkest kind of scene of the Joker we've ever seen." It kind of stepped away from the cartoony comic book version of the Joker and went to a more realism, dark.
I really like how Joker would be if it was a real supervillain or whatever. Like,
there has been a fallout from the Dark Knight, though. I've noticed that a lot of movies think that now they need to be dark to be successful.
That's true.
And I think movies like Man of Steel and Batman vs Superman suffer from that kind of fate now. Yeah.
One thing I just want to bring up, like, a lot of people don't actually know this, but Heath Ledger did his own makeup. As the Joker. Well, maybe not later on, but he
to make it look like he actually did it.
Yeah, the first one, because he argued that the Joker would have done it himself if he were real, so that he should apply it. After it was okayed, and after that they took photos and like the proper makeup artist like recreated the same look every day. But I felt that was actually like another reason why he immersed himself. Like, a lot of people would have had that as an oversight, and just been like, "Oh, it's alright, the makeup artist will take care of my makeup." But he actually took the initiative to actively think like the Joker. And it just it shows. It works. It just shows.
So we've been pretty much gabbing on for about an hour now. But there's one last thing we want to discuss before we go. But we will make a part 2 of sequels. I think there's a lot more we can branch off. We'll make a sequel to the sequel podcast.
Definitely, that will happen.
But pretty much now, I'm gonna get us. If you can think of one, I'm not sure if you've thought of one. We discussed this earlier, but I'm at least going to try and pitch a sequel movie to Walker here and see what he reckons.
All right.
Kind of sucks because the movie I've actually chosen to pitch a sequel to is Ferris Bueller's Day Off,
which I have not seen.
Which of course Walker has not seen, so it's going to be quite hard.
It's on my to-do list, man.
Oh, everything's on your to-do
list. I'll probably go
list.
see it after this and. Then I'll get what you're trying to say, and
and then you'll be that makes sense.
I'll just pretend I understand.
I'll really quickly run through Ferris Bueller's Day Off,
cool.
So pretty much the idea of Ferris Bueller's Day Off is that Ferris is
called in sick.
More or less.
Oh my god, I can't believe I was right.
My god, what a call! So pretty much he wants to have the day off school, right? And his sister is really frustrated because he's had like heaps of days off school, and he keeps getting away with it, and she feels like that like. The parents are like kind of like think he's the baby child, and like always lets him get away with things like that. And the principal's also onto him, And they kind of go through this thing, and he picks up his girlfriend and his best mate, and they kind of go on this day rampaging through the city, talking about life, doing what every idealistic 18-year-old wants to do in year 12.
Alright.
And they pretty much have this really great day, and they learn a lot of, well, I'm not sure how much they learn, but they have quite a few life lessons, a few close calls, and it's a really funny, engaging movie that's kind of got that cult classic feel over time.
Learn about themselves.
It's learn about themselves, yeah. And drive around in a red Ferrari. What's bad about that?
Yeah, I think I've actually seen this.
Yeah.
Not the movie. I think I've seen the like a trailer or like just the cover of it. I think I've seen a poster of it.
Yeah, I mean everyone's seen the the iconic shots of like Ferris Bueller coming out of the shower with the towel on his head and the Ferrari and yeah. So pretty much, okay. So now I'm going to pitch my sequel idea. Right. Yeah, this is something I really quickly came up with. So please don't hate me too much. But
you're okay to hate me.
I thought this would be fun. So I've called it Ferris Bueller's Day Out. All right.
It sounds like a sequel already.
It already sounds like a crappy $2 film, but hold on, just hear me out here, guys. All right, so this film pretty much picks up 40 years after the events of the first film.
Fuck.
So pretty much where right now, maybe like 5 more years down the line than the characters actually are. Cameron, who is the best friend, he's kind of, in the original movies, he's this insecure kind of guy. Like Ferris is literally probably the better version of himself. And he literally learns how to kind of be an outgoing guy in the movie from Ferris. And so Cameron, the main character kind of originally centers around Cameron. He's working in a law firm where he's underpaid and undervalued. His kids don't think he's fun enough, and he always seems too stressed from his day job. He is divorced from his wife, Michelle, I've just given her a name there, and is at risk of losing custody of his kids due to his financial problems and being disinherited from his wealthy parents from the first film. His passion for writing and poetry has always remained, because in the first film there's he says quite a lot of like these kind of lyrical poetic lines, so you get that kind of artistic value from the character.
Right.
It's always stayed with him. So but it's kind of become more of like a side project to him then, because he needs to make money, and like just that typical life thing, you need to have a 9-to-5 job. So we're not immediately familiar with the whereabouts of Ferris, and we don't yet understand if the two have remained friends after such a long period of time. The film begins in Peyton Incorporated, which is the law firm that Cameron works in. He is represented with a case that seems routine and substandard for his abilities. We're introduced to his boss, John Cunningham, who is a younger, better looking and fitter man who emasculates Cameron in pretty much every way. And it's clear to see that he has a superiority complex. After a long day of work, Cameron returns home to his small house in the suburbs, where he lives alone, might have a dog or something. And as he walks through the door, he's kind of, clicked onto his voicemail recorder, and he hears the voice of his ex-wife Michelle saying that he has the kids for the weekend, and it's his responsibility to take them to the hearing, which will decide the custody of the children on the Monday morning. So she then says, oh, by the way, me and Troy, which is her new boyfriend, are going away for the afternoon, so he needs to pick up the kids at 5. At which point Cameron looks at his watch and he says, oh no, it's like 5:10, or like he's a bit late, he's coming home late from work. So he rushes over to the house, and he turns about half an hour late, and he apologizes, he's like babbling on, he's like, oh no, like I'm sorry that I'm late, and kind of like that dorky kind of way. And then he greets his children, Laura, age 10, and Cody, age 12, who seem like unenthusiastic to be spending time with him, because, this is kind of like this growing feeling that, like they don't really care about him too much, even though he does care about them, and we get that sense because he's got photos of his kids in his house and stuff like that, and he genuinely does care, but he's just having a lot of issues that are revolving at the same time. So then he takes his kids home, and he kind of has this weird kind of day where, like, he's getting business calls and he's trying to organize stuff, and his kids want to maybe do something, maybe they start to warm up to him for a bit, and then they realize that he's not going to do anything with them, so they kind of sit down and watch TV, and they seem really unimpressed. They go to bed, and the next morning, Cameron is woken up at about 7 a.m. in the morning. This is a little bit earlier than like he wanted to wake up, and he walks to the front door. He kind of stumbles there. He opens the door and he sees Ferris, and he hasn't seen Ferris in about 12 years. We now understand from their interaction, and he's like, whoa, what are you doing here? And Ferris is kind of he's aged a bit, but he still has that kind of that youthful face and that kind of big smile that we've become familiar with in the original movie. And he has that enthusiasm, and he's kind of walking about using his hands to talk. He's been extremely expressive, and he and Cameron kind of like peers behind Ferris, and he sees that a red Ferrari's there, like exactly the same from the first one. And he's like, "What are you doing, Ferris? Like, what's going on?" And he's like, "Quickly, come on, you need to come with me." And he's like, "Grab your kids." And he's like, "What? Wait, I'm not leaving. Like, I don't want to go anywhere." And he's like, "No, it's extremely important. You need to see this." So he eventually Ferris makes his way into the house, and he explains that like he needs to come with him for something. And we understand that Sloane, which is the Ferris's girlfriend, has passed away 12 years ago, which is why they became estranged, as Ferris kind of became like introverted after a while and struggled with some life depression stuff. I realize it's like very big shift from the first movie, but it'll pay off in the end with the kind of overall arching theme of happiness and life. So
doesn't sound like it.
Yeah, pretty much that. At this point, we understand both these characters have gone through kind of a stage of growing up.
Oh, you kind of kicked Ferris while he's down, though. Like,
yeah.
He's like a divorced dad.
No, that's Cameron.
Oh, alright,
yeah.
sorry. This was like just the overall theme, though. Like they're divorced, kind of like living on their own, introverted.
Yeah. They're kind of these single men, which I don't think that kind of storyline gets played out enough. You know, like the kind of single man maybe, and like the depression of life and how it sneaks up on them, and that's kind of at the heart and soul what this movie is mainly about. So anyway, he pretty much convinces Cameron after a while to come with him. They go on this kind of like wacky day adventure, similar to the first one. You know, maybe they'll go to the city and do something, and Cameron becomes increasingly like, what are we doing? Like, what's going on here? Like, why aren't you taking me where we need to go or whatever? He convinces him to come, but the kids are having a good time, and Cameron at first is like he's getting more and more frustrated with Ferris. He's like, Ferris, like, where are you taking us? Like, what's going on here? And like, why are we not like, what the hell is going on? But as the kids start to, like, we get to know the kid characters, and we get to know what they like and what they enjoy, and we get to see Cameron like actually, you know, merge with these kids, and he actually becomes familiar with them more than he ever really has before. And it's through Ferris's excitement and just kind of fun that Cameron becomes fun also, just in the original movie. You know, he starts as this downer character, and then Ferris makes him kind of become up and happy and stuff like that. So anyway, they go on that crazy adventure, and then as the day progresses and Cameron actually begins to become fun again and enjoy the day, and the day is kind of drawing out to a close, Cameron keeps noticing that the phone of Ferris is ringing, and he actually sees it this one time, and it's the call was from Jeannie, which is his sister. And in the first film, Jeannie kind of plays the maybe the comedy of stuff. You know, she's trying to catch Ferris for not being at school. You know, but in this one, she's clearly like wants to speak to him about something, and maybe like hunting him down in her own right. So Cameron brings this up. He's like, "Why aren't you answering the phone to Jeannie?" And he's like, "Oh no, it's not important. It's not important." So he's like, "Okay," and just kind of lets that pass. And then one time he drops the kids back off at home, drops Cameron back at home, right? And he says, Cameron, like, tomorrow morning, like, we need to go somewhere. And he's like, okay, I need to like go to the custody hearing and stuff like that first. And Ferris is like, okay, I'll come with you. So they all go together to the custody hearing, and the kids like pronounce like their newfound love for their father and like how excited they are to be with him, and he wins 50-50 custody, and it's kind of like a good moment for Cameron, and he feels really upbeat and stuff like that. And he feels like this might not have happened if it wasn't for Ferris. So the kids go back to their mother for the rest of the week, and Ferris and Cameron kind of sit on maybe like a scenic area. I haven't really decided yet, but it could be like, you know, on a cliff or something like that. You know, it could just be somewhere kind of cool and nice for them to sit and hang out, relax, with their Ferrari in the backdrop. And they sit down, they're just talking about life, you know, like how things didn't go the way they expected, and how like Ferris, even how exuberant he is and happy he is, like things haven't gone the way he wanted to in life either. Like this is just the way that he kind of deals with stuff. And then the phone call comes again, and this time Cameron answers the phone, and we kind of hear the mumbling of Jeannie, but we don't exactly hear what she says. And we see Ferris, he's kind of trying to grab the phone back, but Cameron's hearing like what Jeannie's saying. And he hangs up the phone, and he turns to Ferris and he says, "You're dying, Ferris?"
I knew you were gonna do that. I literally like he's got cancer or something, doesn't he?
Yeah, and Ferris explains to him, yes, like this is like he kind of tries to avoid the question, but he's like yeah, but it's like it's okay, man. Like don't like, you know, like life comes to its natural end kind of thing. He tries to play it up a bit, and then like and you can kind of tell that Ferris is trying to convince himself. And like Cameron's trying to like keep him happy as well, but he just can't. He can't drive past the fact that this is his best friend, and like despite not seeing each other in a long time, like this really hurts Cameron. And just as that happens, it finally seeps into Ferris, the realism of the situation, and he starts crying, and they kind of like hug each other, and it's like Cameron says, it's okay, and they he just holds him for a bit, and then he comes to the realization of like what's going on. He says we should take you back home. He's like, okay, and then Cameron's driving to the hospital, and he's come to this kind of sad, like ending, like Ferris is like he hasn't got long left. He's probably only got a few days left at most, and but instead, Cameron takes him. They kind of like brush past. They takes him into the city. He's like, "Where are you taking me, Cameron?" He's like, don't worry, I know where we're going. And they're kind of rushing like into this fast-paced kind of thing. And they come to the same building. I'm pretty sure it's the Chrysler building from memory in the first one. And they go up the stairs, like he's walking up in the escalator, go all the way to the top of the building, and they look over at the world, and they can see that at that point where the original movie came, it was the highest building in the world. And they lean onto the glass just like they did in the original movie, and they just say, doesn't it look like amazing? You can see the world from here. And like you see a single like tear roll down like Ferris's face, and then like it cuts to black, and then it says 8 months later, and then we see Cameron. He's at a book launch, and he's smiling. He's doing autographs and stuff like that. He's clearly become like a successful author, and he kind of introduces his new book, and the book is the Wacky Adventures of Ferris. And he's written a book series about how this child named Ferris like lights everyone's world up and makes them feel better and stuff like that. And he speaks about how Ferris has lived on forever through his own memory. And we see his kids, more interactive with him. We see like he's quit his day job and he's found his real passion. And then then he closes the book and it says, "In memory of my loving friend Ferris Bueller." And
all the feels.
All the feels in the world.
You went for a feelsy movie.
I went for a feelsy movie.
I can definitely see that being something that came out in the late 80s or early 90s.
Yeah.
Definitely see that being. Honestly, I can almost see that as a movie today, but...
Yeah.
Yeah, that was all the feels ever.
Yeah.
You're going to kill him off, though.
That was kind of the main idea I had with it. Like, it's like, if you watch the original movie...
idea, mate, that was the whole plot.
Yeah.
You were just a couple sentences away from pitching the entire movie.
Yeah.
Fire. Look, I'll check. I didn't really prepare anything, or I couldn't think of a movie that I enjoyed enough. Not that I didn't enjoy it, that like I really felt that I really wanted to see a sequel to. But I can think immediately of a couple that never ever should have gotten a particular sequel.
Okay.
So this is one that did have a sequel.
Yeah.
It was a duo movie, and they went and made years later a third movie for it. So this is the one I'm looking at, is Ace Ventura, Pet Detective Junior.
Wait, what?
Yeah, you didn't know that?
Wait, like...
They made Ace Ventura, Pet Detective Junior. Now,
like there's a kid.
It's an actual kid.
My God, what the hell is this?
Like, this is the basic plot. So the son of Ace Ventura takes over the family business, as it were, after his mother was wrongfully arrested for stealing a panda. Or a baby panda, rather.
It hurts my brain already.
Not only it does not have Jim Carrey in it.
What?
So it literally just follows a kid that they get dressed similar. And that's pretty much about it, and it's just terrible. Okay? To put it into perspective, it scored 2 on IMDb.
Wow, that is fucking shocking.
2, absolutely. Not 2 point anything, 2.
Just like straight up 2.
With 3,000 people giving it a shot. 3,800, I think, closer to 4K. So almost 4,000 people decided to rank it, and they ranked it terribly. It's listed as a comedy family, and it is 1 hour and an hour and a half worth of trash.
That is an hour and a half too long.
It came out around about the same time they started pushing a lot of these such and such children ones. Like another one is Rambo Jr.
Oh, God.
They did a Rambo Jr. I don't understand how you turn a war epic type of movie, like action film, like Rambo, into a comedy family.
But that doesn't even have Sylvester Stallone in it.
That doesn't have it. Like I really want to just check it out because I want to see how. Like here it is. So it's son of Rambo, I think. This appears to be some other one, but I've seen the cover and it's like the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. Honestly, like My point is, stop doing crap like that. Okay?
Yeah, well, who is paying to see these movies? This was, to be fair, this is in that area of the early 2000s where everything had to have a sequel, and there was just some absolute garbage movies that were coming out. Like, you know what I mean?
That does not explain it thoroughly enough.
Yeah.
Just stop, okay? Enough is enough. Don't pick up a movie that was a classic and then 30 years later decide, hey, you know what? It needs a sequel right now.
Mm.
It does not, okay? It does not. No, you are bad movie makers. Bad.
Bad movie makers. Stop.
Like, Jesus, man. Like.
All right, so that's pretty much going to wrap us up for the first episode here. Yeah, I feel like we've definitely gone on a bit of a rant at some points there, but
your movie.
Hey mate, my movie was pitched emphatically, and I expected you to have one, but Walker obviously didn't organise one, so I had to pick up the slack there.
Yeah, but after hearing yours, I felt like I sat through a movie.
Good, mate. That was the kind of the idea. But anyway, there's definitely more to speak about with sequels, so we'll pick that up in maybe a part 2 of sequels in a podcast, but we'll move on to a different topic next week.
There are always going to be sequels made.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
exactly.
Realistically, we could talk about sequels forever. We could probably get it to the point where we've
But there's even ones like I could specifically think of. For instance, you need to watch the Indiana Jones movies, because, you should lay into him because he hasn't seen those. And the Alien movies and the sequels there. Like, there's so much more to talk about with sequels, so we definitely will get there.
Cheers for bringing that up, mate.
No worries, mate. Just
had to, because I grabbed my movie idea.
But in the meantime, if you want to follow us on any of our social media platforms, we're under Geeks and Junk. So you can find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all those kind of usual things.
Yeah, we're pretty much on the main 3. Guaranteed Facebook.
The main 3.
It's every facebook.com/Geeks and Junk.
Mm-hmm. We have considered getting a Tinder profile.
He considered getting a Tinder for that.
I'm sure my girlfriend would not be happy with that. But yeah.
Hey mate, Geeks and Junk needs other people to work with.
Yeah. So that'll pretty much wrap us up, guys. So thanks for listening, and
hopefully we didn't bore you with our sequels. Yeah. If we did, that was the point, because sequels
are boring.
They can be boring.
But this one wasn't. This is a cult classic sequel. And until next time, see ya. Good evening, good afternoon, and good night.